framework. Mr. James Evans is Second Secretary to the British High Commission, has worked for Foreign Commonwealth Office for 9 years, specializing in human rights. Previously worked in customer service and sales management. Request him to just come and speak for a few minutes before we move on to the panel.
Thank you very much. Thank you to CARE for inviting me today. And I will keep this short because my main reason for being here is to listen. But I will first sort of say a few words about why the British High Commission is supporting this project. Supporting women's rights is a big priority for the UK and the European Union. And supporting business and human rights and working with businesses to see how they can support human rights is also another big priority. It will be no surprise to many of you that the UK has a strong prosperity and business agenda with India. But it's, as part of that, we're very clear as well that we also have very important values that we must uphold and we must work with within that framework if we are to strengthen that relationship. Two examples are our Foreign Secretary William Hague last autumn launched our approach to our strategy to business and human rights, which we're now starting to explore and look at in India, and also, which is coming at a very interesting time when lots of Indian businesses are also looking at CSR and how they can get involved with that and what that requires of them. And on women's rights, again, our Foreign Secretary William Hague has a very strong and passionate initiative which he takes around the world on preventing sexual violence against women. And if any of you are interested, he gave a very good panel discussion with Senator John Kerry, the Secretary of State in the US, on his recent visit to Washington this week, talking about that issue. So it is something that's both issues are very important to the UK. Now, I think when it comes to women in the workplace and the women's empowerment principles, it's not for me to come here and lecture you because the UK's got it all right, because we haven't, and we've still got lots to do, and we've still got, even within the government, within the Foreign Commonwealth Office, we still have a job to do. Very recently, our Human Rights Department in the Foreign Commonwealth Office identified that we were still not seeing the same level of women and people from black and minority ethnic backgrounds being promoted at the same level or being recruited at the same level. So, and this was a trend which had been going on for a number of years. So this is something which we at the FCO are actively trying to work on at the moment. A number of things, it's great to hear a number of things, even though I've been here about 20 minutes and already the previous speakers mentioned a couple of things which I was going to talk about. One of them, the key things we identified is benchmarking. In the UK, there's a number of organisations which benchmark and rate companies and businesses and organisations on how they're doing against diversity issues. There's some key ones on race and women, and even on LGBT gay-friendly employers in the UK. And lots of the biggest companies clamber to get up the rankings to prove how well they're doing against those criteria. Role models is another example, an important one. You have to, if you want people from particular backgrounds to do well in the workplace, they have to see other people doing the job well. They have to see people who they can aspire to and say, yes, that could be me, people they can identify with. So we're actively looking at getting more women in senior positions in the Foreign Office. Another issue which we were looking at is a lot harder to pin down, but I think the first step is accepting that it's there, and that's unconscious bias. I think when it comes to recruitment, when it comes to promotion within organisations, quite often there are unconscious biases we have about gender, about all sorts of things, people from different backgrounds, which can affect our decision in helping people get on and reach their full potential. Now, I think on the business and human rights case, I think human rights is always the primary responsibility of states, and I think that's important to make that point, but there is an increasing role for business. And as the previous speaker mentioned, it's good for having good diversity practices and promoting women and people from other backgrounds is good for business. You retain talent, you increase your pool of getting the right people into the right jobs, and it's also good for customers. The public have higher expectations of the people they buy things off, their service providers. And in the age of social media, as businessmen, if you get it wrong, government, we know this all too well as well, if you get it wrong, then social media backlashes can be quite damaging. So it's important that we all identify and realise that this is something we have to tackle proactively and for the right reasons. I think I will just very briefly end on a sort of, give 2 top tips, I think, on today and sort of thinking about the women's empowerment principles and implementation. And I was looking through the 7 principles today, and the one that struck me as the most important was, ironically, the last one, which is the 7th one, about measuring and publicly reporting on these issues. And I think that's really important because from years ago, when I first started out in sales management, one of the first things that I was taught, if it can't be measured, it can't be managed. And that's important in terms of profit, that's important in terms of doing business and working with clients, but it's also important in managing your own staff and your own human resource policies. And the other thing is, I think hopefully lots of discussion about implementation, creative ways of approaching getting women to do more in the workplace and promoting them through the workplace. And I think I'm not going to stand here as someone who works for government and tell you this is how it's done, because I think businesses should be doing it better, because it should be treated as a business problem, and businesses are the best people at coming up with creative solutions and fixing things quicker than governments. So we're definitely happy to support you. We're definitely happy to be supporting this event. But as I say, I'm very interested in listening to what you have to say today, and I look forward to the rest of the session. Thank you very much.